Hello guys, welcome back to TFD. I truly believe Caitlyn Clark should start rethinking her partnership with Nike and consider aligning herself with a brand that better reflects her values and understands her true worth. She's already proven she's one of the most marketable athletes in the world, and if Nike wasn't willing to pay her what she deserves, there are surely other companies ready to step in now and make it right. Caitlyn's influence goes far beyond basketball. She's a role model for young athletes and represents the heart of Middle America, especially across the Midwest and the South. Her fan base isn't just passionate, it's loyal, grounded, and values authenticity. That's why her brand partnerships matter. When a company like Nike makes questionable marketing choices that alienate parts of its customer base, it's not just bad business, it risks hurting athletes connected to them. Caitlyn Clark has a unique opportunity to represent a clean, inspiring image of hard work, discipline, and integrity, traits that millions of her fans admire. If another company comes forward offering a fair deal, one that matches both her performance and her character, she should absolutely consider it. She's bigger than any brand label at this point. Caitlyn's legacy will be built not only on her record-breaking stats and championships, but also on the example she sets off the court. Choosing the right brand to stand beside her is part of that story, and it's a decision that could define her long-term impact on sports and culture alike. So here we go. Nike did an ad campaign about Caster Semenya and said anyone who doesn't celebrate him is a bigot. Nike featured Dylan Mulvaney in a social media campaign for sports bras, a non-athlete man. Nike funded research impairing young boys to understand how much male advantage they retain on wrong sex hormones. Now they are in on furries.
Nike hires a non-binary furry to be the face of its new ad campaign as the sportswear giant continues losing sales to Hoka and Adidas. Absolutely wild. I mean, at this point, I'd buy from any other brand, to be honest. So here's what's going on. A non-binary furry has become the centerpiece of Nike's latest advertising push, right in the middle of a major sales slump for the legendary sports brand. Nike's been struggling for over a year now, while competitors like Adidas and Hoka have seen surging profits. And honestly, we can't ignore how Nike fumbled the entire Caitlyn Clark campaign, both the advertising and her shoe line. That's been a story in itself. Now they've added this into the mix. The company's latest campaign comes from Nike's gaming division, a collaboration with British designer Martine Rose. It's aimed at the video gaming community. The products, which launched on October 30th, were modeled by 5 new gaming-style characters that Nike described as heroes of the modern arena defined by creative energy. Among them is 27-year-old Dominique McLean, a professional esports player known as Sonic Fox, a non-binary furry who's one of the highest-paid fighting game players in the world with over $800,000 in tournament winnings. McLean, who uses he/they pronouns and identifies as gay and non-binary, is known for competing in a blue and white fox suit with a large Sonic the Hedgehog-style head. Designer Martine Rose said in a statement, "Gaming is a new lens into how we view sport, and I want to help expand that lens. I've always been interested in corners of mainstream culture and shining a light on them through fashion. This collaboration with Nike offers a unique opportunity to do that in a way that's authentic to gamers and their communities." It's just messed up. It really is. Now, as for Nike's CEO, Elliott Hill, he's been overseeing the company during this steady decline. And let's be honest, there are a few reasons sales have gone downhill. Nike's continued involvement with China is a big one, especially with all the stories about forced labor and supply chain issues.
You know, one of the biggest issues with major sports brands today is how they've lost touch with the very audience that built them. And when you look at what's happening with Nike right now, it's hard not to see the disconnect. This is the same company that wants to find excellence through figures like Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, and Serena Williams. Icons who transcended sport because they represented performance, discipline, and greatness. But somewhere along the line, that message shifted. Over the past few years, Nike's focus seems to have moved away from the athlete story and towards social messaging that doesn't necessarily resonate with their core customers. Back in 2020, when the sports world took a hard turn toward politics and activism, Nike was front and center in that transformation. For a lot of people, it was a breaking point. Many longtime fans and buyers felt alienated, and the company's image started to change.
Now, fast forward to today, Caitlyn Clark, one of the most marketable, influential, and authentic athletes in the country, finds herself linked with that same Nike. But the truth is, something about that partnership just doesn't sit right for a lot of people. Her brand, her image, and her values represent something very different. Caitlyn Clark's appeal is rooted in hard work, competition, and humility. She connects with people across the Midwest, in small towns, and in sports-loving communities that see themselves in her journey. That's why so many fans feel that her brand hasn't been handled properly. She's not just another WNBA player, she's a once-in-a-generation athlete who's brought millions of new eyes to women's basketball. And yet, her Nike deal doesn't reflect that. Think about this. Even the person who helped Michael Jordan negotiate his groundbreaking contract came out and said Caitlyn's deal should have easily surpassed $100 million and included a share of her own brand line, similar to how Jordan built his empire. He's right. She's already proven her market power, and yet she's being treated like a rising athlete instead of the global phenomenon she already is. That's not just bad business, it's a missed opportunity. Part of the problem, in my view, comes down to her representation and the company she's tied to. Nike has struggled to recover from a series of missteps that alienated loyal customers. We've seen this before. Look no further than Bud Light's major PR crisis when they made a marketing decision that clashed with their base audience. They lost billions in market value and customers that never came back. Now, Nike seems to be following that same risky formula, chasing attention instead of loyalty. It's as if they've forgotten what made their brand legendary in the first place: performance, achievement, greatness. Caitlyn Clark doesn't need controversy to sell shoes. She doesn't need to attach herself to shock marketing or political narratives. She sells through authenticity. She sells because people believe in her story. They see a young woman who shattered records, inspired millions, and did it all without compromising who she is. That's why I believe Caitlyn's future brand moves are going to be critical. Her fan base, primarily rooted in Middle America, the Midwest, and the South, cares deeply about values, family, and hard work. They see her as one of their own. So when she's attached to a brand that's losing touch with that audience, it's bound to create tension. If Nike wants to get back on track, they need to remember who their real customers are. They need to celebrate athletes for their excellence, not turn their brand into a social experiment. Because when it comes down to it, people buy greatness, not slogans. And let's be honest, Caitlyn Clark should have the freedom to carve her own path. Imagine what she could do with her own brand, her own apparel line, her own identity, much like Jordan did decades ago. That's the kind of long-term vision that could make her not just a sports legend, but a global business icon. So here's the bottom line. Caitlyn Clark doesn't need to adjust her image to fit Nike. If anything, Nike needs to adjust to fit Caitlyn Clark. She's the future. She's the standard. And she represents something America still wants to believe in. Excellence earned through work, not words. Because in an age where so many brands seem confused about what they stand for, Caitlyn Clark stands out as someone who knows exactly who she is. That's powerful. That's rare. And that's exactly why her next move could redefine what athlete branding means in this generation. Tell me what you think. Should Caitlyn Clark stick with Nike, or is it time for her to go independent? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming next.